All right. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to another edition of Marilyn's Cafe Society right here on YouTube. And how are you on this Friday, August the 13th, 2021? It's a special summer edition show. And speaking of summer, how is your summer going? Are you having a wonderful experience in spite of everything that's happening in the world? And speaking of everything that's happening in the world, the focus today on the show is of a serious nature. And so we're just going to get right into it. And first of all, I just want to tell you that it's about students returning to and re-entering the classroom during this era of COVID-19. Now, over the last year or so, we've all heard the reports about the negative impacts that COVID-19 has had on the educational system, and much evidence has been gleaned over the course of the year. In fact, many educational disparities or learning disparities that have already existed were further exposed. And so one area that we really need to raise awareness about is in the area of mental health. And so Teresa is back. In fact, she reached out to me and she said, Marilyn, we got to talk about this. And so here we are. Now, listen, we have to do this because while those in the educational field already know that we have situations, social situations with the students, that sometimes involve mental health. And so and that's why the school systems offer up special services to help the students, and that's just during a normal year. However, the disruption of this pandemic has unfortunately only increased opportunities for children to be harassed, abused, sexually harassed, or violated, and exposed to other forms of violence or neglect in their homes. And so the team from Involved, Inc., which is a local not-for-profit organization, is joining me today to unpack some of this. And let's go ahead and bring in Teresa Collins. Now, Teresa is no stranger to the show. You guys know Teresa, and in fact, she was just on the show not too long ago. Now, she, of course, is founder and president of Involved Inc. and has 40 years of service in the area of social services under her belt. Now, she has also received numerous accolades for her accomplishments, including a letter of commendation from the local police department for going above and beyond to assist youth in crises. My goodness. And, aside from that, we all know that she's an author, a public speaker, and she has earned her bachelor's degree in psychology. Our next guest that we're bringing on is no stranger to the show either. And of course, it is none other than Mr. Terrance Patillo, who happens to be co-founder and chief executive officer of Involved Inc. He's also an author and a life coach and a businessman. Now, listen, he earned his master's in addiction studies and has been working in that field for about 40 years. And our next guest is David Collins. Let's get him in here. Now, David is vice president and chief financial officer of Involved Inc. He is also a high school educator. He has a dual bachelor's degree in education as well as the Spanish language. Hey, David.
Hey.
Also has an MBA in school business management. And listen to this. That's not enough for you. Listen, David is a doctoral candidate for educational leadership and is scheduled to be conferred with his doctorate in 2022. How awesome is that? And our next guest is Josalyn, and Josalyn Collins is a public school teacher as well in the suburban public school system, but she got started in the Chicago public school system. So, she earned her stripes there, right?
Yeah.
She also has a bachelor's degree in mathematics and education and a master's in technology curriculum and instruction. Um, Josalyn is currently working toward her doctoral in educational leadership. So, wow, welcome, welcome to all of the esteemed panelists. Now, we do have some other guests that we're going to go ahead and bring in, and they're just going to be kind of tuning in and listening in to the show as we bring it to you today. All right, everybody. So, how are you? Can everyone hear? Okay.
So
Yes.
far, so good.
Very
Sounds
good.
wonderful.
Very good. Well, listen, before we get into that serious topic that I introduced earlier, let's kind of lighten up a little bit and talk about happiness happens. In case you didn't know, August is Happiness Happens Month. And so I want all of you to just real quick tell me something that you're doing to make yourself happy or to make others happy this month. We'll start
Well,
with
I'll go first. I'll go first.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Terrance.
Yeah, I one of the things that makes me happy is my work, and the reason why it makes me happy is because I help people and they get results. As a drug counselor and as a recovery support specialist on my job, we get the opportunity, or I get the opportunity to interact with people that have various problems, and uh, when those problems get solved or they feel better about what they're dealing with, that makes me happy. That always has, even before I went into that field.
Absolutely. Get it. Get it. Who's up next?
I'll,
Don't everybody rush to the microphone now.
I'll go next.
Okay, Dave.
All right. I did not know it was Happiness Happy Month.
Happiness Happens Month.
Happiness Happens Month. I'm glad to know. But I've been doing several things to make myself happy, from spending more time with family. Thank God for summers off as an educator. Um, Reading a little bit more, changes in my activity level just to be a little bit healthier, moving more and experimenting with more veggie based dieting. So that's been really fun. And my work with Involved Inc. and nonprofit and working with our community, we've done so much more lately with the community and working with the kids and in schools. So I'm really loving that aspect of my job, and that's really making me happy. All right,
All
I'm done.
right. I could tell. I can tell. Who's next?
I can go.
Okay,
Okay.
Jocelyn.
Hello. So, happiness happens. I happen to be happy because of one, the time that I get to spend with my family. I really enjoy our evening walks together, whether it's around the block or in a forest preserve. And I'm also enjoying just this summer off and spending time with my two boys and watching them grow and develop. One is a 7 month old, so he's not quite at that young man stage, but my 12-year-old, he's going into his teenage years, and just watching that transition from childhood to teenage years is just very amazing to me. Aside from going back to work, which is also something that will make me happy to be back in the building, teaching students math as well as about life and how to be successful. So those are my happy points.
Very good. Very good. Very good. All right, Miss Teresa.
Uh, well, happiness happens, and I happen to be happy knowing that my labor is not in vain. I was a single parent, reared all three of my children, and to see and enjoy and witness the success that they're having with their lives, that does so much for me. And now I'm taking those same concepts and precepts that I had and used with my children and using it in my field of work, which is emotional wellness. I use it for adults and the youth alike. So that really makes me happy. And I see somebody else by the name of Honey that's making me really happy right now. And I see another lady by the name of Gwen, a very good friend of mine. And I know she has something that makes her happy as well.
All right, well, Gwen, listen, we got about an hour, so, but Gwen, if you real quick want to chime in and let us know what makes you happy, honey, how are you making happiness happen this month? Unmute yourself.
We can go on.
Did we lose Gwen?
Oh, I don't.
I think she told us to just go on.
Okay, go on. All right, Gwen. Well, thank you, darling. Thank you. Well, listen, you all, that all sounds good to me. And I think, happiness is a choice, in my opinion. And so if we just look around, and you guys have just shared that, if we look around, we can all find something to be happy about and some way to bring happiness to ourselves or to others. So I'm so glad that you all are experiencing some happiness this month and
Yeah.
sharing some happiness, and you've certainly made me happy this evening by Teresa reaching out and telling me, listen, we need to talk about this. This is very important. And so,
Yeah.
we're going to do this third summer special, a summer special edition of Maryland's Cafe Society. And let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, we've all had a tumultuous year and a half, actually, dealing with this COVID-19 pandemic. And although we are often told that children are resilient, we must know that there has to be a level of sensitivity when it comes to dealing with them as they return or re-enter back into the classrooms. We would not be honest with ourselves to think that these children have not been um, traumatically impacted, not all of them, but certainly some of them dramatically impacted some way during this lockdown period that we were in. And listen, we as adults, we've been impacted, right? We've just dealing with the lockdown was traumatic for us, and don't mention trying to find toilet paper and all that stuff. But anyway, anyway, it has presented challenges, and sadly, for these children, they have really experienced some things. And so, Josalyn, let's start with you. Why don't you kind of talk about some of the problems or even traumas that you've observed or experienced with some of the students during the pandemic year?
Okay, no problem. So as you stated, the adults have gone through some things, not finding that toilet tissue or the Lysol or bleach in the aisles. It was traumatic. It was traumatic for all of us. But the children you spoke about how some say that they're resilient. I say that they could bounce back after traumatic issues have occurred only if they have the right supports. Only if they have the right supports. But some of the things that I've experienced over the course of this year, I taught advanced algebra to students. So math topic, of course, who likes math, right? Math is hard. We don't need it. But there was so much that the students, they opened up and let me know or shared with me about their experiences during the pandemic, as well as there was things that I observed. There was things that I heard on the news that was happening across the country, Chicago in particular, the CPS students, and so on and so forth. But some of those things that occurred academically, there was a lack of resources for the students. Sometimes the students didn't have computers so that they could work. Sometimes they didn't have Wi-Fi so that they could work efficiently, so they didn't show up to class even if they had a computer or a device to work from. There were students who received special services. So students with IEPs, students with disabilities, they didn't have aides to sit next to them as they usually would in the school setting to help them, to guide them through the work that they were given. So they were affected negatively. Then you also had them the parents who didn't have the supports to help their children, those with disabilities. So once again, they kind of were left behind. It did not have the supports that they actually needed. I think about the environment. When I was teaching, I not only heard my students' backgrounds, but I also heard my son when he was on the Zoom meeting and he was listening to his peers' backgrounds. And there was just so much chaos, from yelling and screaming and fighting and cursing and just all types of negative, bad behaviors were occurring. Alcohol and substance abuse was being used on the cameras by adults in their backgrounds. That was broadcasted on the news or a news article. There was social media usage by the students. Instead of paying attention during class, they're on social media, Snapchat, Instagram, and just having a blast. Like, no teachers over my back and my shoulder looking at me and telling me to put my phone away. But it was such a big distraction. They weren't able to really focus, but it increased online bullying, as far as like the students talking to each other and not giving each other the supports that they needed, but instead putting each other down for not looking a certain way, not being able to get out of the house like maybe a peer was able to. Um, as I watched students, I remember a specific student was sitting down, and behind her, I just kept seeing this guy walking past with like a snake wrapped around his neck, or then like a some type of rodent. I can't remember but just walking past. Like, this is such a big distraction. What are you doing? And I said, who are those people that's walking behind you? She said, oh, I'm at a friend's house. So there was lots of students who were not in, again, that conducive learning environment, whereas they were able to focus on the teacher, whether it was math, reading, social science that they were supposed to be focusing on. They didn't have that. There was just too many distractions, TV, loud music, so on and so forth. So academically, students suffered.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not just academically. They didn't just suffer academically. They also, one very important thing, they grieved over the loss of loved ones, whether it was their parent who died or passed away, whether it was a sibling of theirs, a friend, a neighbor. They grieved. And in the school systems, we have social workers who would come in and they will sit with the students. They will talk about their emotions that they're going through and feeling, and they'll help walk them through that grieving process. They didn't necessarily have that available to them at that particular time. They were, again, isolated in their own little worlds, and it really affected the students. Along with that, there were unstable home situations. Parents got laid off. Parents had to work from home. If parents were laid off, then they could have lost their dwelling places. There were several. Uh, a counselor recently told me that there were several students who are now moving from just being a regular student with a home address to, okay, I live with another person, or I am a homeless person and now I need special services offered to my children because of the loss of my job. So there's
Yeah.
so many losses of jobs that have occurred. Students in high school, again, I'm a high school teacher. Many of my students were working to help support their families. Many of them had to become the babysitters for their younger siblings. So therefore, it took away their attention from actually working, actually being productive in school. And then a big thing that affected some of our students was the mental abuse, the physical abuse, the sexual abuse, the verbal abuse. These things are traumatic. They traumatize our students, and they're going to be walking back into our doors with these things hanging over their shoulders. Some were raped, some were molested. In CPS, there was a student who she still had on the camera. and here comes her cousin, and her cousin had her to perform a sexual act on him, so these things have happened. But with situations like that, it was exposed, of course, to the teacher so that the teachers can see, hey, something's happening over here on the other side of the computer screen. We need to be more attentive. We need to be focused more so on, well, how can I help this student, instead of, hey, we got to teach this math lesson. So there's a lot of things that occurred during the pandemic, and those are just a few. But
Yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah. Teachers are more than teachers. I mean, those who've worked in education, we know that. But you may have, for those who are viewing this, you may have heard it, but it really is real. Teachers are not only teachers; you know, they're parents to some degree
yes,
to some of these students. They're social workers until they can, refer the kid to social services for help or assistance. I mean, teachers carry a lot of weight in the classroom, a heavy load. And so I can only imagine that this pandemic just really kind of uh, increased that load a
absolutely,
hundredfold. And so
absolutely.
it's so disheartening to hear that. Does anyone else want to chime in and share any difficulties, problems, traumas that some of their students may have experienced during this COVID-19 pandemic?
I don't know which way. Can you guys hear me? Yeah,
Okay, I hear you.
yeah, I don't know because we're down to about 40 minutes left. I know you said
Okay.
we may be able to go over a little bit, but I don't know if you want to work and try to hit all of the topic questions or
Yeah,
stay
that's
right
more
there.
important, right? That's more important. So let's go ahead and get into that. Now, David is going to give us some of the tips on how to support students as they re-enter the school building over the next few weeks. Some in the South, I think some of the kids have already returned to school. But before we get into that, Teresa, go ahead. Now, as founder and president of Involved Inc., you have had firsthand experience implementing the tips and techniques that David is going to share with us regarding how one can maintain emotional wellness. Now, before we get into the tips and techniques, tell us, what is emotional wellness?
Emotional wellness is just that. Just like our bodies are physically well, we are strong, we have the endurance, we can walk, talk, we can do the things that we need to do. We have energy, all of these things. We don't get tired in 5 minutes because we eat right. We're healthy. Emotional wellness is the same way. We have the emotional strength to be able to handle the issues that life brings our way, whether it be the pandemic and the things that happened during the pandemic, or just life issues. Being a teenager in and of itself, that's an issue. They don't know what
Mhm.
to do, but they are supposed to, if you are emotionally well, you will have the ability to cope and adjust. You will find out healthy coping ways to be able to maneuver your way through this difficult time of learning and growing and figuring yourself out. And that's where our organization comes in. We help the students, the young adults, the adolescents and the young adults find and navigate their way through all of the murkiness of the teen years and, trying
Mhm.
to discover yourself. So that's what emotional wellness basically is. It's a mental and emotional feeling of well-being, just like you have physical wellness in your body. You feel good, you're
Yes.
energized, etc.
Yeah. Yeah. And that being able to cope with life's
Being
challenges.
able, you have to be able to
Yeah.
cope with life. If you
Yeah.
can't cope, and no matter what it is, like Josalyn mentioned, things like being raped, being molested, we still have that ability within us to cope. Many
Hmm.
people, they break down. Many people, they have nervous breakdowns. I had 2 in my life. I wasn't able to cope through all of the, trauma and stuff that I've gone through, but we still have within us that ability to cope no matter what life brings us. We just need sometimes to be taught how to tap into that ability and how to use it. And the thing that happens, and then I'm gonna pass the mic. The thing that happens is that many people are reared in a family environment where they don't have that stability. Like Josalyn said, how we saw on the news, how the perpetrator was right in the background, not aware that he can be seen, forcing a poor little 10-year-old girl to perform, an abusive sexual act on him, and it was caught on the camera. So these are the things, and these children, they don't know what to do, how to cope. Now, when that young girl gets back in school, we don't know what we're gonna see. Her mind is messed up.
Yes.
We don't know what, and then you have children that know about the situation, they're gonna tease her. It's not gonna be something where she's just going to go and everyone has empathy and they pat her on the back. Oh, we're so sorry that happened to you. We saw what happened to you. Children are cruel and mean. So how do we cope with that? So this is where we are, and these are the things, and I'll expound further, but I just want to give the floor because David's turn and I want other people to
the kids just aren't psychologically developed enough yet to handle that, and so they do need to be taught, and coping skills and techniques need to be modeled to them. And it's so wonderful that you guys are doing what you're doing. And so that takes us into something called social emotional learning. And Terrance, I believe, is going to talk a bit about that, to tell us exactly what is social emotional learning.
Yes. Social emotional learning. That's really not simply, but that's an educational practice that integrates emotional wellness and emotional skill into the school curriculum. Okay, we got to read and write and arithmetic and all of those different things, but there's a lot of things going on in school and in home and at home. So the goal with social emotional learning is to teach students and children and adults, for that matter, how to cope in society and how to understand who they are. Okay, so there's 5 keys to successful social emotional learning. One of the keys is self-awareness. We want to help students develop a self-awareness about their own personal goals, their emotions, their values. We want to make sure that they're well-grounded and have a sense of self-efficacy. In other words, they can do. We can do the things that we need to do. I know that about myself. I've learned that about myself. That's what we want them to be able to say when it's all said and done. I've learned my limitations. I learned that I have skills, talents, abilities, and what have you. I know this about myself. Many of them don't know it about themselves because they're being told by adults and different people that there's something else, and they don't get the truth. They're getting images from television and rap videos and all of that. But social emotional learning is talking about who you are, self-awareness. The next one is self-management, how to delay fast, quick gratification, how to preserve yourself from not being impulsive, doing things on the impulse, just at the spur of the moment. Self-management, the thing that you want to do, you don't do, even if it's painful. We want to develop that in children. That's how people are successful. They learn how to self-manage. And then we want to have social awareness. We want to develop social awareness into them. What is going on in the world around them? What are the struggles? What are other people going through?
Yes.
We kind of talk about empathy and things like that. Understanding that the person sitting next to you could be going through something, being sensitive to them. So the social awareness, what's going on in society, what's the thing that's causing problems in society. We want to develop a sense of awareness so they can know where they fit in and how to navigate those different things. Then we want to talk about relationship skills. Relationship skills, everything is about relationship with the teacher, relationship with the parents, relationship with the peers. All of those different things, you have to be aware of those things and how to interact socially. So we want to develop a knowledge and a skill for interaction socially. And then the last one is responsible decision making. Responsible decision making. That responsible decision making is not decision making based on what the peers are doing. It's not following the crowd. It's not jumping on the bandwagon. It's not doing something that you know is wrong just because somebody else said that you should. It's responsible decision making. I'm responsible for what I do, so I need to make sure that it's right. So we want to develop those skills within children, young adults, and even some adults. And we understand that in school, the academic performance of students, when they have good emotional learning, their skills go up or their output goes up at least 11%. That's the minimum. It goes a little bit higher, but right there at the minimum is 11%. That don't sound like much, but then we're talking about the outcomes of academia. But the activities and the behaviors and the way that the students carry themselves in school, that's increased exponentially by having social emotional learning, because they learn kindness, they learn consideration, they learn boundaries, they learn what to say and what to do and how to act, and all those different things which make, if they can bring that into the culture, or if the culture can be cultivated in a classroom or in a school, that makes everybody better. That makes everybody better. When one student grows in those areas, that kind of spreads to other students, and the culture becomes a better place to learn and to grow. So that's some of the goals. It's really deeper than that, but that's the basics of social emotional learning.
Yeah, that overview. Thank you so much for that. That really raises my awareness, and I'm sure those who are watching this or listening to this have a better understanding of it. So David, as we start this new school year, how
Mhm.
how can parents and teachers support the students by practicing this emotional wellness concept, as well as implementing some of the social emotional learning techniques that Terrance shared with us? What would that look like?
It will look like so many things. And I wanted to start off by addressing some of the things that Ms. Collins said, Josalyn talked about. Students, they're coming back traumatized. And even before the pandemic, students were traumatized. And I remember a student that I had this past year, and I'm going to call him Jay because there's not a J in his name. But Jay had all F's and one B. His one B was in my class, and he earned it. I remember working with him, and he was doing terribly academically. I talked to his other teachers. They had given up on him. And I began to talk to Jay just back and forth on email and through the Zoom meetings. And he just began to talk to me about his life and how he wanted to go to the NBA and just all kinds of things like that. Nothing academic at first. And when I got to the point where I said, "Hey, do you want to do a paper?" He said, "Sure, you like my favorite teacher, Mr. Collins." And then he told me a little bit later, "You like a father to me." And I'm like, "Wow, okay. I just know you on a computer." It turns out he was a ward. He did not have parents. So I said, "What?" And I looked at how the other teachers kind of, you know, gave up. It was a tough year. And he tried so hard in my class. So I called him after school, like for a personal Zoom meeting to help him out. And this is what happened. As we began talking, we were discussing, what he could do to improve. And there was yelling, cussing, fussing in the background. and someone came into his room fussing and cussing, and he yelled something back, and then he said, "Mr. Collins, I deal with this every day. I'm gonna try to do this." And it was clear to me, these students, that boy didn't stand a chance. He didn't stand a chance. But that little bit of time that I spent with him, talking to him about, sports and going to the NBA or what he wanted in life, that's SEL, that's social emotional learning. We weren't talking about the curriculum.
Yeah.
We were talking about what would make him happy. He said, "You like a father to me," because he had someone who cared, someone who listened. And that pushed him to actually do my homework. That pushed him to ask questions and to actually come to after school meetings to talk to me. I was thrown back. And at the end, like you see his report card, FFFBF. That's how his report card looked. So what's the point of that story? True story. The first thing you have to do when you're an SEL teacher, yeah, there's techniques, you can read them in a book or on a website, but you have to be available and empathetic. Two words: available and empathetic. If you're an educator, you have to be there. There's I believe it's Latin, imperentis. You said it earlier. Educators are actually parents. When they are in school and our care, we're legally their parents. We're their protectors. You have to be available like a parent. That means the first thing you have to do for these children is love them. And if you don't love them, you don't deserve to be in education. Quit. Go become an accountant or something. That's just the way I feel about it. You have to be available. When your child needs you, yes, when your children need you, be there. Be there. And then you have to be empathetic. We don't know what our children are going through. As teachers, we do have access to files, and we can only see so much. I did not see that he was a ward. He had to tell me. And then I realized when I looked deeper, it said his parent was his foster parent. That's what I began to see. But we don't always see that right up front. We don't know what's going on unless they talk. But they're not going to talk to you if you're not available to them. They're not going to talk to you if you're not empathetic. When he told me I wanted to go to the NBA, I didn't say, "You're not going to make it to the NBA. Think of something better, boy." No, we talked about what he wanted to do. The next thing, not just, caring, being available and empathetic, you have to create a safe place to share and communicate. Students are full of baggage, loaded and baggage. All the things that you heard, I don't have to go over it. Josalyn covered it, but so much baggage. One of the best ways to get rid of the baggage is honestly communicate about it, talk about it. Talk about it in a safe, non-judgmental environment. Sometimes just a conversation where they can unload it, verbalize what's been on them, what happened to them, what they feel, what they've done. That does a huge amount of the work. They don't have to go to a therapist or anything if they can just find a place where they can talk. Your classroom as a teacher or your home as a parent has to be a place where children can communicate and share what they're experiencing. And you as a teacher, if you make that, you will hear things. I think someone got on. If you can hit the mute because it's disruptive. The last person who got on. Thank you. But if you can hear people communicate, you as a teacher, you then have enough understanding of what to do. Wow, this child just opened up to me. Now I know I can talk to the counselor. I can refer them here or there because they have resources that you as a teacher, you need to connect them with. No child is going to walk in and say, "Hey, I need emotional help. Let me go find a counselor for myself."
Yeah.
You as the teacher, you as the parent, that's our job. We go do that. Next thing, we need to be just in our grading practices and in our teaching. Frankly, you can't expect stellar performance when they come back. They had an unprecedented last 2 years. They weren't even in school. And then students come in and they don't give you stellar performance. You just give them Fs. No. Be just in your grading practices. Understand that many of them had been working full time. They were not studying, and you expect them to be Einstein. That's not going to happen. Figure out better ways to grade, and you need to adjust the way we teach. I'm saying you, but we need to adjust the way we teach with understanding that, hey, the last 2 years happened. They're not coming back like any other class. So we need to reteach. We need to go back. Many of them will be 2 years at least behind. On top of the 6 years, many of them were already behind. So understand that. Don't crush them right away. figure out ways to build them back up. We're in the building business.
Yes.
We're in the building. Yep. And I know time is of the essence. I'm
Yeah,
gonna speed it up. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that level
mhm,
of teaching, David, is at the ministerial level, in my opinion, because for
Absolutely.
some teachers are just teachers. But when you approach it from the way you just, those pointers that you just shared, that's at the ministerial level. That's a true calling as a teacher, an educator.
thank you. And I want to say the last point. The
Yeah.
last one I think is important. Deal with your personal issues. If you're mentally, emotionally unwell, you can't help. Just like on the airplane, you can't save someone if you're suffocating. You put that oxygen on first. As educators, get yourself together first so you can help your students. That's the last
Mm-hmm.
thing I wanted to say. I'm done.
Mm-hmm. That
I'm
was
done.
so good, so
Right.
good. Teresa, what you
Yeah.
got?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to say what David said. That was the main thing for me. You have to be well and
Yes.
whole. So if you have issues, a lot of the teachers, once you get to know them, you understand why they are not really committed to their classes, to their students, because they are still suffering some of the same things that the students are suffering and going through. Many of the teachers, they are in abusive homes. Their husbands are, being abusive toward them. They were raped when they were children. Some are still in marriages where they're being raped and abused. So you have all of this stuff. So you have the broken. The scripture said that the blind can't lead. How can the blind lead the blind lest they both fall in the ditch? And that's why we have so many children falling through the cracks,
Yes.
because people are broken and we need to be healed. We have to, like they say, physician, heal thyself. We
Yeah.
have to do the work on ourselves. We have to get in a position where we are healed, because when you're talking to a student, there's no other example that you can use but your very own. A child comes into you and he or she tells you, I was raped, I was molested. What's the best thing? I understand. I was raped and molested when I was your age also. And I'm here today to tell you that you can heal from that. You can overcome that. You have to be strong enough, healed enough. That just has to be a part of your story. That
Mm,
can't be what you're living. That has to be a part of your past. That's just a
yeah.
page in your story. But
Yeah.
many of us as educators, leaders, parents, like you said, ministers, our story is still, we're living that. That's supposed to be a page in our book.
Yes.
That's not supposed to be, what we're living. And so we have to get to a place where we can really minister, as you said, to our children so that we can heal them. Because whatever you're teaching, English, writing, arithmetic, algebra, geometry, none of those things matter. I
Yes.
went to school every day and my position was head down. Why? Because I got beaten, slapped all night long. My father
Oh,
tried to drown me with beer, pouring it all in my face and my nostrils. I can't focus on school. I'm thinking about how can I escape him when I get home. So we've got to be well enough to be able to see their pain and talk to them. Forget the class when it comes down to that. Melissa, come here, let me talk to you. And you pull Melissa to the side or in the hallway. What's going on? I noticed the bruise on your face yesterday and I see a new one on your arm. Talk to me. We have to be sensitive enough to do that. We have to understand that when you go through trauma like that, you're not going to function in school. You are
mhm.
going to find the crowd that is, acting up. You're going to be a part of
Yeah.
that bad crowd because you don't
Yes.
feel like you're anything anyway.
Yes.
So you're going to
Yeah.
be, you can't focus on getting your schoolwork done. Some of them realize for me to make it, I have to be this pristine student. That way, if I do everything right, my parents won't get me. The parents get them anyway, but this is their mindset. So we have to begin to understand that our students are not going to be pristine students in the class. They can't function the way a normal. They don't have that emotional wellness. They're emotionally sick.
Yes.
They don't think like it. So we have to understand that that's where they are and be willing to put ourselves in that position where we can be what they call transparent. Be able
Yes.
to talk to and share our stories, because That's why we are put in these positions, because our stories will help set the young people free. They will latch on. Like David said, the young boy, he latched on. Why? He gave him what he needed. He gave him love. Some people need to understand that you can get past it. They need to know that they're not alone. It's my story too, like the Me Too movement, Me Too.
Yeah.
Whether it's single parenting, whatever it is, we have to be able to go in there and reach them and pull them out. My saying is you got to meet them where they are, but you can't meet them where they are if you're too ashamed.
Gotcha.
If you're too afraid to tell your story.
Gotcha.
If you don't want them to know what you've been through.
Yeah.
I used to smoke drugs. I used to drink. I've been raped. I've been bent over. And we have to be willing to tell this to the students so they can know I'm not alone. And my teacher's a good example. My teacher's on his A game. She's on her A game. If she did it, I can do it too. And the kid will open up.
Got
the kid
it.
will let you know, yeah, I go through this every day. Every day when I go home, they're waiting on me. Let me see, who was it then? I passed the mic. It was a famous singer. I can't think, Donnie McClurkin. He told his father, your brother raped me. His daddy looked at him, thought it was funny. He bent Donnie McClurkin over and he raped him, his own father. After he learned, Donnie McClurkin has said it on national TV. After his brother raped him, he told the story to his father. His father turned around and did the same thing. So they started tag teaming it.
Yeah, that's prayerfully that's an unusual circumstance, but I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. And there's interventions as well. So the teacher can be the mediator between the student and some of the social services that are available to them. But I see Gwen has her hand up. Gwen, go ahead and unmute yourself.
I did. Hi, I'm Gwen. I just want to say really quickly, one of the things that I love is learning new things. With that said, being in the education, I've been in and out of the educational system, substituting, teaching, just working with students all around. One of the most important things a teacher or anyone in that field need is they need to be able to be trustworthy, because children, they gravitate toward adults whom they can trust. I can tell you my story and I can trust you to take care of me, to protect me, to shield me, and to do the right thing with my story. So that's very important. You have to be trustworthy. And hearing David's story, and it seems that he's trustworthy. So that child looked at him and pretty discerned him. Children have discernment. They can discern evil spirits and people, and they can discern who's trustworthy. So that was one of the things that young man did. He had discernment. Hey, I can trust him, So I just wanted to put that in there, that trust is a major factor in the educational system.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's a saying, and I'm probably not saying it right, but children don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's it in a nutshell. So wow, this has been awesome. Again, the year and a half has been unprecedented, as I keep hearing everyone say. And it sounds like everyone is gonna hopefully has taken the time before the school year starts to taken some time to decompress, because it's been a lot. It's been a lot. And as you said, loss of life and everything. We've heard about the numbers of domestic violence, the domestic violence cases going up over the course of the year and a half, for adults, for women, and in some cases men. So everyone has to decompress, I think. And man, you guys Terrance just taught so much, given that overview of being self-aware, self-managed, socially aware, relationship skills, responsible decision making. And then, of course, David came in with being available to the student and being empathetic and creating a safe place, a place where they feel safe. And also just once again putting it out there that the educator, the counselor, the advisor, the administrator, the principal, everybody, the cafeteria worker, everybody has to deal with their own personal stuff. And Teresa broke that down so nicely, so nicely. And so um, this has been very good. I appreciate the call, Teresa, and I really pray that this information raises the awareness for parents, for the educator, and for all who may touch the life of a young person, and even for themselves. These are things that you can do for yourself, as David said, before you step out there to deal with your student, your child, because they are, as he said, our children. Um, Deal with your own stuff. Take yourself through these steps to help yourself, and then you'll be able to help others. Closing remarks, everybody who wants to share something and close this out for us.
Well, I just say this, that I thankful that for being invited to this Zoom, and it's really informative, even though we are the ones that's delving into this stuff and trying to develop these programs to help people, but we still learn as we go, and so I just want to encourage everybody, that we've heard it said so many times, children are our future. And so if we don't do what we're supposed to do and what we can for our future, the future looks mighty bleak. But I don't want to speak that into the future, because I want to be a problem solver. I want to show, as you said, Miss Marilyn, that they don't care how much you know until they know how much you.
Mm-hmm. We lost him. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah, Miss Collins will let you know that ever since she's been knowing me, that's been my motto. It's not about how much they don't care how much you know, until they know how much you care. So let us walk with encouragement that we can make a difference. Let us walk with knowing that we are enough. Let us walk knowing that because we care, we can be there for our students and we can lift them up to another level, long as we stay on that level. Another one of my favorite saying is, let's go higher. I don't care where we are, what type of degree you have, what type of status you have, whatever your title is, you can always go higher. And I believe that our students are worth us going higher. More education, more training, more self-reflection, more self-care, those different things that make us ready and like warriors going into the battle to fight for the soul of our children. That's what we should do, because they are our future and we have the tools. We are the ones that can make the difference.
Amen. Amen.
That's it.
Anyone else?
One of the things that's so important, and this is more so it's for everybody, but for students, and I think this will help students when we're talking to them, is to teach them to live with purpose. A lot of times when something happens to a student, adults too, but when the student, they think that's the end of the world. We have to teach them how to use their experience to serve others with that. It didn't happen for nothing. It may be a senseless act, but you can take that act and live with purpose and help others, serve others with that. Don't bury it and walk around with it like it's a cross or a heavy burden for you to bear. Use it to serve others. And when they do this, their life has purpose, and we got to teach them, and then they feel good about themselves, and they find too that thing that they were carrying, now it too has become just a page in their story. They no longer walk around with the pain of it cutting them on the inside. So I think that's really important.
Yes. Well, listen, anyone else?
I think Donnell Love was trying to say something. I can't hear you.
He said no, no, ma'am. All right. Well, listen, I am so glad that Involved Inc. is on it. If
Yes.
you don't support them, make sure that you do. They are truly making a difference in the lives of students in this area. And I'm certain that if you live somewhere else, they still will be able to serve you as
Yes.
well. So how can you all be reached?
David, give him the email address, the website, and all of that. Can you
Sure.
type
I'm
it?
going to
Just
type
type
it
it in.
into the
Yeah,
chat. So you
type
can
it
go
into
to
the chat.
involvedinc.org and you can email us at exboard, exboard, like executive board, at involvedinc.org. And anything you need, if you want to talk to us, get some information, get some help. If you want us to come to your learning environment, to your school, your church, wherever, and you need us to do some of our SEL programming, we're there. And we tackle all issues that impact the community, from education to just emotional wellness, drug abuse, everything that needs to be addressed. We have the expertise, the drive, and the care to do it.
Amen. Amen. Well, listen, I thank all of you, each and every one of you. Teresa Collins, thank you again, sweetheart, for bringing this to my attention. And I'm glad that we were able to pull this together. David Collins, nah, mwah, mwah, mwah. And Josalyn, mwah. And those beautiful children of yours. And of course, yes, Involved Inc. is a family affair, in case you haven't noticed yet. And of course, Terrance Patillo, thank you so much. And then to Gwen and Jess and Mr. Love, thank you for tuning in to this special summer edition of Maryland's Cafe Society. I truly hope that you were able to glean something from this and take it home, and utilize it or share it with others that you think might need it. And again, it's going to be tough, but it's going to be tough. It's really going to be tough. So we do need to hold everybody that works in the
Yes, hold them accountable.
school building in prayer. We really do. And we certainly wish and pray that all the students, the teachers, the parents, the janitors, the cafeteria workers, the bus drivers, all of them, we hope that they have a safe and
Yes.
healthy and successful school year. And above everything else, I think one of the big takeaways that you all made clear was exercise patience when dealing with these students. Exercise patience and stay on alert, because some of them have gone through some traumas, and that trauma may manifest in all different kind of ways. So just stay on alert, and just do the best that you can as well. And I thank you guys for tuning in and stopping by. Now listen, August is a new month, and this is the first show for the month of August. So I do want to share our word. Every month we learn a new word that we practice every um, throughout the month. And so it's isochronous, isochronous, and it means to occur at the same time or occupying equal time. So isochronous is the August word that we should be trying to learn and use throughout the month. And as always,
Yes.
everybody, if you have a product, a service, or something that you want to promote through the show, send an email to producer@marylandscafesociety.com. We do have the Christmas giveaway coming up that's starting in October, so I am looking for things to put in the gift bags. So make sure you reach out. That's producer@marylandscafesociety.com. Go to the website, social media, connect with me on the blog. And of course, we want you to like, subscribe, and share on this YouTube channel. I will put in the comment section of the YouTube video the Involved Inc. contact information, so you'll have it there as well. And so before we go, I just want to share what love is. And at this point, all I can say, based on what I heard, love is Involved Inc. And if you don't do anything
God.
else, everybody, for the rest of the summer, be sure that you live, you laugh, and you love. The show will be coming back right after Labor Day with a new season of shows. So make sure that you tune in. And of course, I'll be popping in on social media and may even do another video, short video pop in. All right, it's been a pleasure and a privilege. Thank you all. Mwah.
All
Thank
right.
you
You're
so
a
much.
Thank
wonderful
you.
host.
Have a
Bye-bye.
Wonderful host.
wonderful
It was
school year.
amazing.
All right, and see you guys later.
See
Peace.
Thank you
ya.
for having us. Thank you
All
for
right.
having us.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Take
And it's
care.
good to see all of everyone that came out. Jess,
Yes, thank
Honey
you.
Love, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
See ya.
Peace. We'll be
Okay.
talking.
Bye.
Okay.
Peace.
Okay. Marilyn, before you hang up, when does this
I'm
come
just
out?
going to stop the recording. Hang on.